Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at this little guy. This little guy right here. This is the FireFly 1S Nano baby. It spins 40mm props on 0802.4 16,000 kV motors, 16,500 kV motors. And it is super efficient, and those of you that like super long flight time, yeah, I got over 10 minutes on a 720 milliamp 1S battery. But we're not going to watch the whole 10 minutes. Hopefully that doesn't bother you. We're going to start with our desk review, and then we're going to head right out in about a minute and fly. And I am flying with the jumper T-Light, with the Express LRS, which it does come with, and my Orca goggles with a rapid fire module in them. I get that question a lot. I think I probably need to include this a little bit more. Before we get started on the Nano baby here, we should take a look at its internals here. This is the primary part of the main board here. The Goku Versatile F4. Which it has a 250 milliwatt VTX. It's got our OSD. You can get it in FR Sky or without an RX. As you can see there, it's got all sorts of solder pads, no connectors on this one, and we have some nice LED lights as well. And then on the back side here, we have two different UFLs, one for our video and one for our receiver. And in my case, as I said in the intro, yeah, you can run Express LRS in that. And I did ask FlyWoo if this was the EP2 from Happy Model, and it is not. And I can confirm that the light on the receiver, even though it looks just like an EP2, it's blue. And the EP2 light is yellow or orange or amber, whatever. It's certainly not blue. And they sent me another one. If you do the Express LRS, you do not have to flash it in order to be able to bind to your module. You can just use the bind within the Lua script, and that's what I did. This is the main board within the Baby Nano. They also sent this Goku F745 Pro. This thing has 7 UARTs and 8 motor outputs. Of course, with all those solder pads, there's very little room for silk screening, so a little sheet like this is going to be real important. And it's got connectors on the back, and it can take power input from 2 to 6S. Links to these parts, as well as the Baby Nano, in the video description. And as I've already previously stated, 0802.4 16,500 kV motors. We also have Gemfan 40mm bi-bladed props. Goku all-in-one board, which we've already covered. The camera is tagged as the FlyWoo 1S Nano camera, and they have a weight of 1.2 grams. We have what looks to be a rolled pin PH20 connector. The battery tray is a 3D print. If you look right there, I did kind of break it. Of course, this interesting little canopy holds the camera, the VTX antenna, as well as our receiver. And it has a slot open for our USB port. Motors are 3-position motors, and we are using all 3 on the frame. I do think we could use a little tiny bit of my favorite tape to hold the motor wires down, because it did find from time to time in some of my crashes, they come up a little bit. FlyWoo does also have their own 450 milliamp 1S battery. The Baby Nano weighs 21.7 grams. With that FlyWoo battery, it weighs 34.5 grams. Also flew it on this 660 G&B battery, and I got 9 minutes and 22 seconds. And with that battery, it weighs 37.75 grams. But with this 720 milliamp battery, I got over 10 minutes of flight. And with that battery, it weighs 38.8 grams. Bottom plate, I'm getting 1.38 millimeters. And motor post to motor post looks like 72 millimeters. All right, here we go. This is going to be a fast, aggressive flight, more my typical style. The slow cruisy flights give us the longest flight time, so something to kind of tell the difference there. And this flight is going to be 4 minutes and 57 seconds. And I was taken aback by that, because most of my flights were coming in around 4 minutes or just under 4 minutes. So I found a magic battery, and apparently I flew it differently or something here, because yeah, or I just found a battery that wasn't, beat up like most of my other batteries are. So something else that I think many people will be excited about is Patrick J. Clark. You might know him from Project Mockingbird. If you don't, we'll talk about him a little bit more. He will be getting one of these, so we can look forward to a Project Mockingbird tune. And that's something that I think is something that is needed. There's a few areas in this where you'll notice some bounces and some wobbling. It does have RPM filtering enabled. They are running Betaflight 4.2.9 on the version that I got. Hard to say what you'll get, because, if you order it 4 months from now, there's probably a new version of Betaflight out. But I do think it could need a little bit of tuning help. It flies nice, it flies fun. But there's just a few little things I think we can smooth out with a little bit of work on the PID tuning. All RPM filtering isn't a magic bullet, it still needs a good PID tune. But I had a good time flying this, and I think a lot of people that, especially if you come from camera drones and you're used to long flight times, you'll probably have an appreciation for this. because you can possibly do one of those exploratory flights for quite a while. I say quite a while. Yeah, I got 10 minutes, but I am really intentionally doing almost like an eco sort of flight in that 10 minutes. But as you can see in this flight, you know, it corners fine. You can do flips and you can do rolls and do little punch outs. It's 1S on a 40 millimeter prop, so it's not going to have big punch outs. It handles things just fine. I've got a fair bit of wind and it's hot as sin. Well, it's like 93 degrees, but the humidity is like 58%, I believe, is what my notes say. And that meant the heat index was over 100. So it was smoking hot as far as how I felt when I was out flying this. On the longer flights, it was actually a little bit cooler and the humidity was a little bit less, different day, and it was in the morning. So those things are all a benefit. So I've got my 40 or plus flights through this, and this was the one I picked out because I remembered this flight so distinctly, because when I got done and it said 457, I was like, what? None of my other flights have been that long. What's been going on? Certainly, I could have flown this battery before, but I crashed out. Oftentimes when I crash out, I won't even finish the battery. I'll just leave it there so I can recharge from that point rather than depleting the battery down and then running again. I will have a crash reel. We'll watch like the first minute or so of the slow cruisy flight, the kind of the eco flight, and then I'll probably fast forward that. You know, doing all these different flights that are super long makes for a super long video, and I suspect there's a number of you that just want to know how long it flies. You don't want to actually watch it fly for 10 minutes. So you'll get an idea for how I'm flying it. You also get an idea for the fact that there's wind out front. A funny thing about my camera that does audio recording, it only will record up to 10 minutes at a time. So it actually stopped the audio recording, and I can post those. I suppose I can put links to the entire flights down in the video description if you do want to see the whole thing. I was kind of hoping to avoid that. Seems like a kind of a waste of bandwidth, but you know, if you want to see it, I'll put it down there. Again, that's the 720. I'll just put that one down there. There is an 850 out there. I think I have 4 of them, but I did not charge and run any of them. You might get some more flight time, but I'm thinking at some point there's diminishing returns. You know, I tried the 660, I tried 520, and I also did the 450s. So I think I should post the 450 flight as well. The 450 flight in kind of that eco style ran just under 8 minutes. I know FlyWoo posted theirs at 8 minutes, but you know, outside with wind in my area, heat has an impact as well. You know, as your motors warm up, they lose a little bit of the efficiency. So 7 minutes and 50 seconds is what I got. I did run it twice, and I got 749 and 750. So if you fly with wind like I've got, with heat like I've got, that's about what you expect if you fly it like I do. In this particular case, I've got my Magic G&B 450 milliamp battery, and I got all this flight time. I'm not trying to say that FlyWoo's batteries wouldn't get you this, but you know, in this particular case, I remember this flight distinctly, and I do know that it came on a G&B battery, because I'll just charge up like 15, 20 batteries in preparation for the flight session and go out and fly them all. Here we go. We're going to land here behind me, and you can see I've got my snazzy socks on with my slides. 4 minutes and 57 seconds in the lower right hand corner, and you see our batteries come back up to 3.61. So this is my 10-minute flight. It's actually 10 minutes and 22 seconds. And this is how I fly it. I want you to get a sample of that. It is out front. The wind has a much greater impact out front, so you're going to see some wobbles and bobbles. Again, I think the tune could use some work. You saw how I flew it in the backyard. No, I didn't retune. I didn't do anything special out back. I just flew it with my favorite radio, the T-Lite, that does have the Happy model Express LRS module in the back. But the wind was 14 miles an hour, and it does come down this street. I suspect when it comes down the street, it's greater than that 14 miles an hour. Of course, we also have some wind gusts that pop up from time to time. Something else that I kind of thought could use some changes possibly is the VTX at 250 milliwatts. It seemed like we were getting a few more flashes than I was expecting, but you know, we could see we get across the cul-de-sac and it clears, but then we move another 15-20 feet and we get some flashes on there. I'm kind of thinking that I might try a different antenna. You know, when these antennas come off the line, there's a possibility that maybe it's not quite the right length. So that's something else that I was thinking about trying on this particular board. But for review purposes, I need to show it how it was shipped to me. So I think that's pretty important. We've watched about a minute of flight. I'm going to go ahead and speed it up, and let's get to the end. Again, I will post this flight down in the video description if you want to see the entire thing down there. Okay, you can see we're at 3.49 and it's 10 minutes and we're getting a low battery warning. Again, pretty typical for me. I'm not landing right when the low battery warning comes in. I want to have my batteries at 3.5 volts or 3.5 volts per cell when I disarm. That's what's important. That's how I maintain battery health. Okay, 10 minutes and 17 seconds. Why did my notes say 10 minutes and 22 seconds? Oh, I wrote that down wrong. And we see that the battery bounces back up above 3.5 volts per cell. So we're in good shape for the battery. And we got 10 plus minutes of flight. This is on the 450 milliamp from FlyWoo. FlyWoo did specifically state they wanted me to fly this particular battery. And I think the battery is a good battery. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think they were more concerned about using an old beat up battery and having bad flight times reported or something that was way off. So again, same day, same weather conditions, same wind as well, and you get a sample of how I'm flying here, but I think speeding up to the end is probably what most people want to see. This flight should come in at 7 minutes and 49 seconds again, if my notes are correct on this particular one. Let's go ahead and fast forward it. I know I don't like doing this. It's annoying. It sounds terrible, but I think for brevity's purposes, showing you the flight so you get a feel for the flight and then scooting towards the end so you can see how it actually wraps up rather than me just telling you. All right, we've got the low battery warning. You can see our battery is at 3.46, and we got 7 minutes and 40 seconds now, and we're going to come in and land. The battery does end up just a touch short of the 3.5 volts that I am always shooting for. But that is our 450 milliamps. So if you flew it inside like FlyWoo did without any wind, yeah, you're probably going to get 8 minutes easy. So I think to get the weight down, there were several sacrifices that had to be made. One is that you just have to have everything be as light as possible. And I do think their motor and prop combination is super efficient. But you might be surprised to know that I crashed it repeatedly and didn't break it. Matter of fact, I'll show you my my most aggressive crashes. I hit the back fence line a couple of times. I also hit a tree. I was trying rapid fire mode 1 and I hit another tree. I got tangled up, in some greenery, and I had some times where I didn't hit the throttle right after I did a little loop or punch or something, and I tumbled in the grass. But I don't think we need to see the tumbling in the grass. The most dramatic ones are probably what you want to see, and it's fine. I did notice when your props get really banged up, you will see what could possibly lead you to believe you're seeing motor noise in the video transmission. And I misread my notes again. It does not come with Betaflight 4.2.9. It comes with Betaflight 4.2.0. And here we can see also the PID tune. I wanted to give you an opportunity to see that because I think it needs some improvements. It doesn't look like really it's been customized at all, just RPM filtering on there. It flew fine that way, but I think we can do better. And I didn't get around to it during the flight, but Patrick J. Clark, he has got a website called projectmockingbird.squarespace.com where he puts all his PID tunes. He does everything he does for free for the community, and I think a lot of people out there enjoy that. He does full write-ups, tutorials. He explains some of the choices, why he made them. He's worked with Mark Spatz from UAV Tech on PID tunes before. He's also a newbie drone team pilot. It's a little bit of a unique team pilot situation there with him, but I think that's something else that we can also as a community look forward to is that, while if you like what you saw, and it flies just fine, it doesn't handle wind great, and I think it could tighten up a little bit. We could get a little more bounce back out, a little bit more tight turning, prop wash sort of stuff out of it. You'll like it even more, I think, once you see a tune from Patrick J. Clark. And I keep saying Patrick J. Clark because oftentimes on Facebook he's referred to as PJC or Mockingbird. So something to a little added value there. I do think the fact that they used this rolled pin connector is not necessarily holding us back initially, but it's probably holding us back a little bit. But the more connections you have, the more power you feed through there, that connector is going to break down. So that's probably one of the first things to break. not necessarily break, but to break down and need replacement, either with a solid pin or maybe you go to BT20 or GNB27, whatever your preferred connector is. But rolled pins is something in micros that we do need to do away with. We need at the very least to have solid pin connectors. And generally you can tell whenever they've got these crimp-on connectors, that's a rolled pin connector, which is unfortunately fairly standard still. We see a lot of companies still doing that. That's my biggest complaint here. I do hope they post the STL files for both pieces. Like I said, I kind of, where did it go? It's over here. Yeah, I kind of broke my battery tray, and I continued to use it that way, and it held my batteries just fine. I hope that they post those so that we can print our own. Maybe you want to have a different color motif or something like that. Maybe you're not going to mount your Express LRS in here. I think that's kind of an interesting little holster idea, but maybe you want it flat for whatever reason. Maybe you want to move the antenna or change the camera angle. That's another deficiency that we don't have with this. This camera has a super wide field of view, so you can adjust your eye vision further up in your goggles to get more speed if you like that racing style like I do. But it would be easier if we could modify the canopy. Of course, you could cut it up and do that sort of thing, but if you could, retool this canopy into one which is more camera angle, I think many people would appreciate doing that as well. I had those crashes, and everything held together really good. This reminds me, if some of you might remember a few years back, this had a little bit of a feel of that Happy Model Tiny Trainer that broke really quickly. I think I actually clipped a prop on a tree and nearly broke an arm off, and as I was flying it back because of the wobbles, the arm did break off. That's not to say anything negative about this, but it was immediate when I saw it out of the box. I was like, man, that looks like a little bit of a tiny trainer. The tiny trainer was bigger though, and it ran, I think it was 65mm prop, so grossly different altogether. I do think they've used some quality carbon here, or surely I would have broken something on one of those hits that I had. Also, I just noticed I may have lost a screw out of the back. Has anybody else seen another video where that screw, maybe there's nothing to screw it into, so they just left it out? But sure looks like it should have a screw. At any rate, so the other screws are, as you can tell with the hole that we just looked at, we've got to cut out so that they sit nice and flat, but we don't have that here out on the motors. The other thing I would kind of like to see changed is also a little bit of that, my favorite tape, my motor wire tape that I'm always talking about to secure those down, because as I got hung up in greenery or I crashed, I did find that those come up, and I can't even get my finger in there. Let me grab a tool. You can see that there's potential that it gets in the prop line. We have enough wire length there where it can get in the prop line. So I would put a little bit of tape, or if you don't like the tape that I oftentimes am always talking about, use your own tape. Just secure them down a little bit. I guess another thing that we always have to talk about with these frames is when you do get hung up in trees, this has some tiny spots that something could go through because it doesn't have the traditional, quads in general, to me, feel like grappling hooks when it comes to getting hung up in trees. They find a way. We've got all these spaces that the props can grab a hold if you're running tri-blades or quad blade props that, branches and stuff can get hung up in there. But we also have these spots that a little tiny branch or twig could get into. It wasn't a problem. I got stuck in the Japanese maple just off the patio once, but it was only about 3 foot off the ground, so not a big deal there. Yeah, fun little quad. Let's take a look at the price here. Right now, I'm just looking at the posting on FlyWoo's website. They have a whole bunch of different options, but if I select the SPI FrSky, it's $99.99. If I go over to the ELRS, it'll be $114.99, so $15 more. And if you go to Banggood, I have got a special coupon that I just received tonight for 8% off. And it is good through the end of the year, so even if you're not interested in this, you can use that coupon. It's BG Nick Burns. 8% off is what you get. You can only use it 10 times. So as an individual, if you place 10 orders, then you've gotten all your percent off as far as the use of my codes. And it has a maximum of 50 uses per day. So if 51 of you try to use that code, the 51st person, it won't work. You'll have to wait till the next day. Whether that day turns over at the 24-hour period at nighttime with China time or local time, I just don't know. That just came out tonight. But you can save 8% off of this over at Banggood if Banggood does have it. Right now, though, I see it on the FlyWoo website. So let me know what you think. I like little guys. I'm very biased. Hopefully you come to this channel and you know that I like most micros, you know, as long as they don't break easy and they fly reasonably well. Even with the kind of default tune on this, it flies pretty dang well. I had a good time with it. I just think with the help of Patrick J. Clark or anyone else who wants to take on a PID tune for this, we can make it fly better. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get even more flight time as we improve that tune. Is this something that you like? Is this something you'd like 8% off on? I think it's a lot of fun. Now, FlyWoo, if I can ask you to do one more thing just for me, make a 2S version with a 2-inch prop. That'll be the sweet spot. Let me know what you think about this little quad. What do you think about the flight, how it handled some of the wind, the PID tune? Are you familiar with Patrick J. Clark and Project Mockingbird and his tunes? I'm very curious to know because I know there's a lot of people that, you know, they're not scrolling through Facebook every day looking at every posting in every FPV group and you don't have 5,000 FPV friends. Just try to get a feel for, you know, how, your involvement and what things you might be excited. Are you excited for a Project Mockingbird tune? I am. Because I know how hard he works on those things, and he just loves to fly micros. So something to look forward to, and this will just get more and more fun as we go. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, otherwise, please let me know in the comment section below. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.